group of institutions, no matter how peaceful they tend to be, they have this sense of, knowledge of accepting certain wicked character, wicked approach to resolving things. And we have historical history that proves to us what Christians or Muslims or all the religions were doing in order to implement what they believe. After maybe the one who set it up was gone or was no more, they decided to find ways. Man's attitude has always been like that. They never thought of it that, okay, if this is the situation now, then we will allow things to be. We will allow, just as it was before. And if there is nothing happening, we have to accept ourselves as we were and just move on with life. We don't have to spend our life trying to make efforts to make things happen. No. Immediately you do that attempt, you have refused God to be God. You have demonstrated to people things in a way that you are feeling inside you yourself as if you are thinking that God is not powerful, God cannot do that, or God cannot really, do it. So you can't wait forever for God. If God doesn't do it, what will happen? It's none of your business. How you present it is the thing. You went there and make people assure that God will do it. You shouldn't do that. First, have the confirmation first, and make sure the confirmation is legit. And then you go out there, and then you make sure that you are doing that. Even that, those that we learned the story for were still not sure. They were still fumbling in words. They were still struggling in words when it comes to presentation. Because according to the story, they were struggling. They could not take that chances. Because if the people sort of realize that you're there lying, or then you have yourself to blame. People are always like that. So when you haven't got a confirmation clearly said, and the signs and all that comes along with it, that will make the people believe, there's no point you going out there and acting in a silly way that you're not supposed to act. So we stick to Genesis, where we get to where Isaac has given birth to his children Esau and Jacob. Now Esau and Jacob is also revealed here. There are also for promises that came. If you look at the story clearly, Rebecca and all that, it tells you somewhere in Genesis 24:25. Then they called Rebecca and said to her, "Will you go with this man?" And she said, "I will go." That's Rebecca taking Isaac, the offer of Isaac as a husband, or as his man to live his whole life, rest of his life with. The servant was ready to take him to Isaac. So here he says, they ask him in verse 59 in the chapter 24, Genesis. So they sent away Rebekah, their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, "Our sister, may you become the mother of thousands of 10,000s, and may your descendants possess the gates of those who hate them." Look at such a blessing. Your descendants, may them possess the gates of those who hate them. Even from the very day that this woman is going to meet Isaac to marry, he has been given an assurance from a blessing to show that he is going out there and possess the places of those who hate her. Take control. Have the places of those who hate her. Now, this thing is there in her mind. What do you think? She has to act upon the blessing. The same thing happens again. This is what is being fed into the person's mind. I have mine being fed into my mind. There are some things that tells me to strike somebody when he does something silly to me. Now, it's up to me to hold back and think it through. If I don't have to be blamed also for my actions, because at the end of the day, that's the information that ended up in my head, and I thought it's a good thing, it's the right thing to do. So human beings can be programmed any way, anyhow. We have to be careful. We program each other. Our ways are program each other, and there's also another divine entity that programs us as well. We have to be very watchful, and that is what we are trying to unveil. We have to pull these things out and clearly see it. When you know these things, you sort of know how to adjust your life. You know how to, do things willingly. You know how to decide what you can see clearly what you need to do and how you will react to things. We have to pull these things out. That where is it come from? Here is some of the advice here that you can see. If today anybody read these things and he sort of put himself in the situation or he's in the same scenario, he can think along this line. Others always say that. That's where people normally quote from the books or references that they depend on. And we go further on. Even Rebecca had to be told again in the womb, when he was struggling and having problems in the womb with 2 children. He says there are 2 children in your womb. Let me read it for you. That is further on when Rebecca has been made this promise. There are so many statements before we've read, and we are reading this as well. Esau gave birth. He had to give birth to Esau and Jacob. In verse 23, and the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 people shall separate from your body. 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the other shall serve the younger. Such a prophecy or such a future issue has been revealed to you. And if you read this clearly, it sort of demonstrates something to tell you that, okay, my mother now, the woman now knows that his young child, whoever comes after, the twins, one will come after the other. The one who comes later is what? The younger one. He will have to do what? He's younger by time, so he had to be ruling, and the older one. So the mother will then, doesn't know how this thing will happen. And a man will always interfere. They will not allow God to be God. The God or the spirit that spoke to you, allow the spirit to be a spirit. Don't interfere. But there is always that thing about us that we will always interfere. I don't know why we do it. Because we are tired of waiting. You see the case of Abraham. They were told that he was going to have a child. And he's going to have, life go on very well, have thousands of billions of, descendants. It wasn't happening. They were tired of waiting. And so the wife had to suggest that, go and sleep with my maid. Why should? Because they couldn't allow their own faith to be established, for it to be materialized. That is what I'm saying, that let God be God. Whatever God you are into, it's not just about Christianity, it's not about Islam, it's not about just Buddhist. It's about entirely whatever you believe in. Let it be. Let God be. And so when these words come from my mouth, it's not about somebody saying it to me, but in application and thinking it through logically. What am I trying to prove? How am I going to strategically put it, or how am I going to strategize the whole thing? And that is what I'm saying, that it's the words that I'm responsible of understanding it. And over 8-10 years, I've tried to 11 years probably, I've tried to get understanding to it. And that is what I'm saying, that what way forward? How can we allow God to be God? Let things that be, let it be, so that God will exercise his power and do what he has to do. He has to fulfill all the things he said. He has to fulfill his, it is a way of us choosing to be able to discover the signs and the miracles we've read about. Those things happen not by a manly effort according to how we are supposed to believe when we read the story. And so we have to allow to see that, is it for real that it did happen? Why doesn't it happen these days? Because we don't allow it to be. And it has been so from even that time to now. Human beings have the attitude of intervening. Because we have no time. And of course we have no time. A man lives for about 100 years or 80 years. Some people live less. Some people even don't have the chance to even grow, to survive, to be old or any, and they die early. So we know within us instinctively we choose to be a bit quicker, because somehow, even if we think it has been said, for it to happen or for it to materialize, it will take, so we find means. So Abraham sort of had his wife telling him, go and sleep with the woman and have a child for me, because God has promised you, but yet it's not going to come. So yeah. And then he also had to end up sleeping with the girl to have a child, later leaving the girl desolate, in that kind of state. Why? The same thing is happening again here. A man has to intervene again.